Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1973-76 off-season look. And tonight we're moving into the next category of player looks. We looked at the carry-on guys. In the last 4 weeks, it's the dozen players who are in the league that are carrying on to the next year with a card either 7, 3, 4, or 5. So we're trying to determine their next 8 teammates. And it begins with the 4 guys they want to keep. And now, tonight's analysis, and for the next 4 weeks, is we're going to take a peek at the keeper lists. We'll do 8 teams tonight, alphabetically, beginning with Arizona. And what we're looking at is for the 4 players designated as keepers, we want to kind of give the team a map of which years are available for a player, which years is a guy very good, and if there's a really bad year, a year to avoid when deciding which year to select a player. Knowing you can only take 2 players from any particular season, you can't take 3. We begin with Arizona, and you'd like to see a fluctuation here between the blue years, the hot years, so that you've got a nice mix. You don't want to see 3 in 1 year, and you also like to see whenever possible, if a card has availability in every year and without any designation, it signifies that it doesn't matter too much which year you pick. He's a pretty even keel performance for all 4 seasons. We got pretty much a nice mix of that here with Arizona, beginning with Ed Herman. Herman he plays in all 4 years, but in 74, it's his best year. We got him here. It's an all-star year for the White Sox. In 74, it's 259 with 381 slugging with 10 home runs in half a season. So it's modest numbers, but still the best of the 4 years in consideration, so we highlighted it. Next guy, Darryl Knowles, lefty reliever, always good, except in 75. There's a problem. Houston, we have a problem here. Let's just check this out when I get a noteworthy thing here. What am I going to avoid in 75? He's got a 5.81 ERA and a 1.61 whip. Ouch. I don't know what happens to him, but he comes back with a nice 76 and continues, well, through 1980. So, yeah, stay away from 75 for Knowles. What we're saying about Steve Stone is it doesn't matter that much. His ERA will fluctuate between 3.92 and 4.25 or something like that throughout the whole timeline. And Jim Willoughby, what happens in this era here is he's a relief starter relief, and kind of average in 3 and 4. But in 75 and 76 with the Red Sox, he goes exclusively to the bullpen and finds some success. So this is a pretty good map here. You know you want 74 Herman, one of these 2 years for Willoughby. Stay away from that for Knowles. So Knowles and Stone, for instance, could come out of 3 and 6 with Willoughby and 5, something like that. Next up, the Braves. Dusty Baker's best performance is in 73. He's still playing center field, and he's still got an 800 OPS. Then he has these 3 years in Atlanta, actually 2 are Atlanta, one's with the Dodgers, where he's still kind of finding himself. The power disappears. It returns in 77-78 when he's in LA and the Dodgers go to the World Series, but he loses it in the middle 70s. But 73 is the best year for Dusty Baker. Rico Carty has had injuries to disrupt his career. He missed 71. He'll miss 74, most of it. He's got an okay 73, but he comes back in a big way in 75 and 76, does it for Cleveland, where he can be a full-time DH, doesn't have to play the outfield anymore. That's okay with Atlanta. You can do that with a Cleveland's player, unless Cleveland wants to make a deal and acquire him. Johnny Goetz plays in all the years as a left-handed hitting catcher, sometimes with power. In 75, it's like 270. And Ron Schuler is sort of like Jim Willoughby up here. He's a starter relief starter kind of tweener guy, but then when he goes exclusive to the bullpen in 76, he has a very good year coming out of the bullpen. Let's take a look at that year and see why we're highlighting it. The innings pitcher low too, which means he's an extra player card in this year. He pitches on 3 days rest in 74 with a 1.47 whip as a starter, 11-16. But in 76, he's got a 2.90 ERA and a 1.20 whip when he's strictly reliever. See 0 starts in 76 where he's effective. So if you want to pitch on 3 days rest and have him be mediocre or below average, you can. If you want him to be a better than average reliever, you take him in 76. All right, that's 2 teams. We'll continue. Baltimore. And with Baltimore, this is pretty interesting here that what we're saying in this picture here is Cuellar loses it by 76. Remember something about Cuellar. He doesn't get traded to Baltimore until he's very surprisingly older. You wouldn't think that, but he started late with Houston, and then he arrives in 1969 in Baltimore. He's already 32 years old. So that, and then he had these incredible seasons, winning 20 games, but he's still an older guy. So what we're saying here is it doesn't matter too much between 73, 4, and 5 for Cuellar. Just doesn't matter. 76, though, he starts to lose it. So you fit the year in you need the most. What we're saying about Lee May is 73, he's not in Baltimore yet, doesn't get there till 75, and his stats are a little better there as he's getting older and older. Eddie Watt, it's more drastic, in which he's out of the game by 75 and 76, and in 74 he's terrible. So you pretty much, this sort of locks you into taking 73 Eddie Watt. And Earl Williams is in a similar state as Lee May, where 73 is the best year. I mentioned you can't take 3 guys in 1 year, so Baltimore has something to figure out here. You can take Lee May and Earl Williams in a less talented year, which is fine. You could upgrade one of your 1973 players to a future contract and then all 3 of the guys. But Baltimore's got decisions to make. This is not a great era for Baltimore that we're moving into from 73 to 76. They missed the playoffs in 75 and 6. Boston, speaking of getting to the playoffs, 75. They get to the World Series. Don't forget, we got Carlton Fisk highlighted here. Everybody knows Fred Lynn arrived in Boston in 75, and he was the Rookie of the Year, the MVP that went to the World Series. But a lot of people forget Carlton Fisk. He had 331, and Freddie Lynn had 333. Fisk was injured, missed half the year, but the batting average is incredible for Fisk. It's one of the best offensive years he has in 75. Doug Griffin, it's going to be about defense, but the spat is better in the first 2 of the 4 years, but you really want to find the best defense possible. Tiant, you're thinking about 1975 in that great World Series, but he had a 4.12 ERA that year. But in 73 and 4, he's much better, closer to that brilliant 72 performance. Rick Wise gets hurt in 74. The good thing is his best year's in 76, and he's the only guy out here. So, yeah, you can sign him to a 4-year contract, and he's going to be a steady pitcher that you could have until Dennis Eckersley arrives later in the decade. That would be a fine replacement for Wise. This is a really good setup for Boston if you go 75 Fisk, 76 Wise, and your choice of these guys. All right, that is a look at 4 of the teams. Now the Expos, and this is a pretty weak selection of carryover guys. Jay Alou, Bacabella, Mickey Scott, Tom Walker. Jay Alou, an outstanding pinch hitter in the National League during the 70s. You can make him a full-time DH in our league. In 73, he's got the best batting average. Bacabella barely made the keeper list. Probably could have been put on waivers. He only has 1 more good year left in 73. The Expos might want to do a service. Look at the waiver list and swap Bacabella out, because there's some nice pitchers on waivers right now. Bob Moose, Joe Coleman. Good pitchers out there, at least I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe better than him. Mickey Scott's got good years in these 2. The whip is the best in 75. It's like a 110 whip. 76, the whip is high, but you really have to study your lefty strat cards for pitchers. If the lefty gets lefties out and gets knocked around by righties, that doesn't bother me that as much. And frankly, sometimes it's better than a lefty who's the same versus lefties and righties. Tom Walker was an expo through the whole timeline except for 76. So he's the flexible one. A lot of rigidity, very rigid choices, 73 and 75. I don't think Bacabella is going to be taken if I'm thinking now. I think the waiver list has got to have a better player than that. All right, the Angels. LaRoche misses 73, and 76 he has an all-star year. Bob Oliver, his 73 is very similar to his 72. Then he gets older and starts to lose it after just one more year. Gary Ross misses baseball. 73, he's awful, and something happens to him. He must have hurt his arm, pitched terribly. Is sent down to the minors to figure it out. Then suddenly he reemerges in 76. Let's take a look at this. Normally this guy would have just been retired and forgotten about. But he's got 1976, an outlier year. He throws 225 injuries at age 28 after an injury-plagued early career with a 1.25 whip. That's a fine starting pitcher. That puts him as a 2-3 in the rotation with an ERA of 3 and 200-some innings. And you see the 70s out of the game. So this Gary Ross, remember, California's rotation is Nolan Ryan, Frank Tanana. They also have Andy Hassler. They traded Bill Singer in the offseason to make room for Gary Ross in that rotation. And Ryan, of course, he's available in every year, as you can imagine. 73 and 74, he still has reasonable control. Then 75 through 78, it's the walk strikeout show for Nolan Ryan. His whip is about $140. He'll walk 200 and strike out 300. And that's just doesn't translate well to Strat-O-Matic, unfortunately. But 73 and 4 are his best years. So this looks good for the Angels. You got a pair in 76 with the assumption that the rookie class of 76 is not that great. Because you're not taking rookies, you're taking older guys who got a lot better. So if you find the rookie class is super talented in 76, we can look at that. We got it right here with California. There's Tanana, Ryan, Jerry Remy. He'd be a rookie. Dave Collins would also be a rookie. I guess Hartzell as well. Ron Jackson. Sid Vanji. Remy's going to be good, but he's only going to be a singles hitter. And only hits 263. So and he's third in WAR on the team. Yeah, the question is, Dave LaRoche and Gary Ross are probably better. And they have Sandy Alomar at second base, I believe. So, or if not him, they have Horace Clark. All right, the next two teams, and then we'll call it for tonight. We'll start with the Cubs. Great start at the top with Jose Cardinal. Well, look, let's show it to you. There's no designation on any of these 4 years, but it doesn't mean he's average. It actually means he's very good in the best years of his career, which is also extremely valuable. 73 to 76. Here's his OPS here. 812, 800, 821, 740. 4 great years in a row for Jose Cardinal. MVP votes in 73. That's tremendous flexibility combined with talent for Cardinal. Russell's going to begin a long tenure with the Cubs and a long baseball career. 73 and 76, the best years in the timeline. Ron Santo, Billy Williams getting up there. Santo's only got a couple of years left with 73 being the best. Billy Williams actually does play all the way to 76, but 73 and 4. If you want to work this scenario in year 1, 73, you could go 74 Williams, which is a 2-year contract, and then 73 Sano and Russell. Or you could go 76 Russell and take Santo and Williams with 1-year deals in 73. With the assumption that Billy Williams 73 might be a little better than 74 based on age. We can take a look at that. But he's, question is probably 35. Yeah, 35-year-old outfielder, 806. The following year, it's 835. He plays less and is more productive getting more rest. So that's why 74 is better than 73 by a whisker there. So, yeah, that portends well to say 74 Billy Williams. He doesn't play as much, but plays better. Sano. And then you can do whatever you want with the other 2 guys. And the White Sox. Dick Allen still has some marvelous years in 73 and 4. Not so much beyond. But it's not going to be kind to the White Sox when Allen, Forster, May, and Wood are all not going to be as good as they were in 72. That's just the way the game is. But still, the MVP of 72 with a 1023 OPS is down to 1,009.38. So it's hardly anything to complain about. Forster has similar years, not nearly as dominating for these 3, and he's really awful in 76. He goes 2-12. Carlos May is the guy that would be the first guy to replace, as he will continue a career that goes to the rest of the decade, but he's also very mediocre defensively, offensively. As he loses speed, at least 73, he still is on an MVP list. But they really need to replace him soon. 73, he's got a full season, 268, 334, 412, 747, 20 dingers. He's down to just 8 stolen bases after 23 the previous year. But then after that, he only cracks 250 once or twice there, and he's out of the game by 77. So that's where the team needs to improve. And Wilbur Wood, 3 and 4 are both good years. 76, either an injury or a decision to put him in the bullpen happens. Let's look at the brilliant career of Wilbur Wood here, and we'll call it a night. Wilbur Wood. Let's start 76. So he throws 56 innings, and they are starts. So he probably just blew out his arm after the 7 starts. They were brilliant. 2.24 ERA, 110 WHIP. So, if you wanted to be creative with the Chi Sox, he wouldn't be a number 1 anymore, but he'd be a better pitcher in the carryover league, where we don't play 162 games. So you could have a more effective Wilbur Wood with a 110 WHIP, but he goes from a guy pitching on 2 days rest to a guy pitching on 4 days rest in that case. If you still want him to pitch on 3 days rest and possibly 2 days rest, I don't know where we are with that rule. These are the starts: 49, 48. Then it goes to 42 and 43. I don't know if he's still eligible to pitch on 2 days rest, and frankly, it doesn't really matter too much in the regular season, but it's very important in the playoffs for the White Sox. 75, he's got a 4.11 WHIP, so we kind of want to stay away from that. 4.11 ERA, excuse me. So obviously the White Sox are looking in the early years to keep their vets going, which means they're going to have to find some more rookies out of 76. Take a quick peek in 76 and see what rookies might be popping up. Chet Lemon. Well, Ken Henderson's still in center. That's a high whip, though. Soderholm's still in the Twins. Barrios. Crowley. Kravik. Orta. Kravik's got a 1. Oh, these are low whips though. This is a bad team. 71 and 90. It's a we see the top guys on the team, but the team ain't very good. And you see Lamar Johnson. Lemon though is intriguing. Yeah, Lemon it's 300. So that would be a nice rookie to have. Now, how do you get him on the? Well, there you go. There's your Carlos May replacement. You have Henderson, Chet Lemon, and Buddy Bradford and Steve Bry in the outfield. That would be what the White Sox might want to do. And if they get a guy to replace Wood in the rotation, you see Wilbur Wood in 76 isn't very good. But the other guys aren't very good either. When it comes right down to it, no, this pitching staff 12th in ERA in the American League, 3rd from the worst. So, yeah, that's the review of the first 8 teams alphabetically in the keeper list in the 4-year picking a year. We'll keep this series going over the next 4 weeks and look at all of the keepers. And that'll be an indication of 80% of the rosters, the 12 guys on the team. 4 more guys they want to keep makes 16. And the only variables are what 4 new additions do you have to replace the 2 guys you put on waivers and 2 guys you retired. All right, thanks for checking this out, folks. We'll see you next week.